Wow, we have a bad story getting even worse. Cruise canceled after cruise passenger passes away. We also have the fallout of some of these new cruise taxes. And we've got a couple calling Carnival's smart technology dumb. Yeah, all that and more on today's episode of The Cruise Show.
All aboard! Your ship is leaving. Talking about everything going on in cruising. It's the Little Loca time. It's the Cruise Show. It's the Cruise Show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Little Loca. Welcome to The Cruise Show. I am your host, Tony, here to talk you through everything going on in cruising. It's everything going on in cruising. It's for your face. For your face on a Monday the 3rd of November, 2025. And like I said, a bad story just gets worse. It was the big story last week. The 80-year-old Australian cruise passenger who went really on a bucket list cruise with Coral Expedition on the Coral Adventurer circumnavigation of Australia's $62,000 cruise. Very first port stop. She takes an excursion to hike to Lizard Island, to hike a hill, part of the Great Barrier Reef. She gets ill during the trip, and she's told to go back to the cruise ship. And the tour goes on without her. The tour completes. They go back to the cruise ship. The cruise ship packs up their stuff, and they leave. And the 80-year-old cruise passenger is not on board. The ship has to come back. I can't believe they left. They have to come back. And then they go and they do a search party. They engage the local officials, and the poor cruise passenger, the 80-year-old woman, is found deceased. Some tragedy happening as she tried to make her way back to the cruise ship by herself. That still continues to be a story under investigation, but then the worm has turned. The cruise company has decided to cancel the whole cruise and return people back and fly people home to wherever they came from. They cited, of course, the incident of the passenger passing away and some mechanical issues. That was really all the statement said. That cruise ship holds 120 passengers, and certainly the passing of one of the passengers in a weird way like that probably does play on the mindset of other vacationers. But at the same time, I don't know how I would feel if my whole cruise got canceled. Again, if the mood of that ship was completely turned off because of this event, which you could imagine it would be such a tragic event, then maybe everybody going home and getting a refund is the way to go. But that's the way that it's playing out. Not sure that I said it, but that was a 60-day cruise that got canceled shortly into the start of that cruise. I guess a fair question to ask is, how would you feel? Do you feel like this cancellation would be what you wanted if you were a passenger on board? Do we even know what it feels like by not being there? But yeah, leave a comment below. Now, of course, one of the other big stories last week was Hurricane Melissa and the devastation that storm wrought on Jamaica and other islands in the Caribbean. Jamaica, a popular cruise port, popular destination for tourists both by land and sea. And in all reality, the tourism that happens in Jamaica is the primary economic driver for that island. So unsurprisingly, we already have leaders from Jamaica coming out saying, when will Jamaica be reopened for tourism? The Minister of Tourism, Honorable Edmund Bartlett, has set a firm target date for Jamaica's relaunch to be December the 15th, 2025. So the idea on that island is that they can get their infrastructure back in place to receive cruise ships, to receive resort passengers in a good and full way by December the 15th, 2025. But it does remind me, back in 2017, September the 9th, Hurricane Irma hit Cuba, and we went on a cruise to Cuba just a couple weeks later, like on the 21st. And so all of these Caribbean islands, again, tourism for many of these islands is the number one economic driver. It's like everything else in life. If you're somebody who has to go to work so that you can, have money to pay your bills, or if you're a business that needs to generate revenue so that you can have money to, keep the business open, these countries as a whole, these Caribbean island countries and most countries that depend on tourism they got to be open for business. So I believe that every effort will be made there in Jamaica to get them ready by December the 15th, and we're hopeful for them. It just reminds me of a story I saw yesterday. I guess it was pretty disastrous in the Houston airport. With the government shutdown, we have more government shutdown for a month now. We have employees that work for the government that do not know when they will get paid, and they have not been paid in a month. Everybody that, not a part of this seems to sit back and go, well, they'll get paid at some point. Imagine that. Imagine you got bills and you haven't gotten paid for the month and you don't know when you're going to get paid. It played out poorly in the Houston airport yesterday, where I think a group of TSA agents decided not to work, or they walked off. And then we've also had some air traffic controllers calling out. And I saw lines in the Houston airport. People said they waited 4 hours in line to get through TSA, missing flights. If you have to fly into a cruise right now, I've seen two sides of the coin. I've seen airports that no challenges, and then I've seen airports that have been very challenged. But Houston is one of those airports that could impact people going to Galveston. And certainly if things go sadly or poorly, people don't come to work in Florida, people going on cruises could be in a lot of trouble. So I'm so annoyed by the shutdown. We got family members that are impacted by the shutdown too, and it's frustrating. Jamaica going to reopen by the 15th of December. Hopefully the government opens back up and people don't get their cruises impacted. And then I do have another Jamaica related story. They're not completely ready for, cruise passengers, but they still can receive a cruise ship. I want to share these pictures that were posted on Carnival social media by John Heald. This is the Carnival Horizon loading up supplies for Jamaica, and they were supposed to go to Ocho Rios this week in Jamaica. They won't be able to take passengers there, but they will be able to stop there and offload supplies. Almost every cruise line that I've read about is doing something to contribute to Jamaica's recovery, and all of that is good stuff, but it looks like at least we'll have the Carnival ship there dropping off supplies. Now, let's talk about a location that is feeling the pain from a tax initiative that the government has laid on cruise ships. We have a group called the Iceland Monitor that are studying the effects of a cruise tax that was put in place in 2025 for Iceland tourism. Iceland passed a law that said all the passengers that come to Iceland starting January the 1st, 2025 will have to be charged a daily fee of $18 while visiting a port in the country. Now, this on the surface seemed great because officials said that this new tax could generate over $10 million for Iceland. The problem is they did not take into account that as cruise lines were planning their trips, that they looked at this tax in Iceland and said, well, we could go somewhere else without a tax and we wouldn't have to pay all this money. And so according to Iceland Monitor, the scheduled stops in Iceland for 2027 are down by over 50% in some of those ports. Now, Reykjavik is continuing to do well. That's a big spot to go to in Iceland. You can go to the Blue Lagoon. I've been there. It's an amazing thing. But some of the smaller ports are reporting that their bookings are way down. It's an interesting game. Certainly, the government sees cruise lines and the cruise industry as someone that has money that can pay more to come to the places, more than it's already agreed. It's not like these are new agreements. There are agreements in place with port fees, all of those things where cruise lines say, hey, we would like to come to your locale. And the locale says, yes, it'll cost this much for you to dock and to use our infrastructure. All of that's signed off on. Then all of a sudden, the outside government comes and says, well, in addition to that, why don't you pay some tax money? Because we could use some tax money. And cruise lines are like, okay, I mean, we can play that game, but there's, I've said this before, anytime that one place tends to close up, there's another place raising their hand saying we could use some of that cruise money. And, it's like that in life. You want the path of least resistance, and overburdening people with extra taxes beyond what you've already paid for regular taxes and port fees is not the way to do it. And that's what the cruise industry in Iceland is saying, and that's what this Iceland Monitor is saying. Hey, we understand that you put this tax to raise more money to do more things for Iceland, but this tax is actually going to cause less people to come to Iceland. So what's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with that? That's the game that they play. And then, look, we've got Port Canaveral have had a bigger weekend with 3 new cruise ships making an appearance. I'm going to tell you all about that. Plus, I got to tell you, there's some people that think Carnival's new smart technology is dumb. But before I do that, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. We're getting very close to 300,000 subscribers. Would love for you to be a part of the local fam. If you love this daily cruise show that I do, or pretty close to daily cruise show that I do, and if you like what we're laying down here, pick it up. Pick it up with a subscribe. And if you're digging it, hit that like button. It doesn't cost anything. You just hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 300,000. Thank you in advance. Okay, let's see. Celebrity Apex, Celebrity's newest cruise ship, has arrived in Port Canaveral, and that's where it's the home port for the Celebrity Apex. They're kicking the Celebrity Equinox. Beep. They're kicking them out of Port Canaveral to make room for the Apex, and it will be doing 7-night sailings to the Bahamas and to the Caribbean. They came down there to Port Canaveral. They had one of those big old plaque exchange ceremonies. I do love the pomp and circumstance of cruising. Anytime a cruise ship goes somewhere for the first time, they meet with the people that are in charge of the port, and then they exchange hardware. And like on the Apex now, there'll be a plaque that says Port Canaveral. I do like that. I'm excited. I'm only a couple days away from going to Fort Lauderdale to see the naming ceremony of the Star Princess. The godparents of the Star Princess are the McConaughey's. So hopefully I can get some footage of the McConaughey's naming the Star Princess with a big all right. But yeah, so that's a lot of stuff, a lot of new ships making the scene. That's the Celebrity Apex. We also have showing up in Port Canaveral, a Disney ship that's not going to be home ported there, the brand new Disney Destiny. I've said it before. I've been on one Disney cruise. I don't think Disney cruising is for me. I don't think I'm the demographic or the person. I'm a nerd to the 12th level for sure. I mean, I know the secret handshakes and all that. And this Disney Destiny's got Spider-Man right here on the aft of the ship. So it should be a ship for me, but I don't think it's going to be. Maybe. I don't know. I guess never say never. But yeah, Disney Destiny is going to be home ported in Fort Lauderdale. But before it went to Fort Lauderdale, it made a quick stop in Port Canaveral, I guess just to see the sights. Now, Port Canaveral is a good place to pick up supplies and to do some other refitting. And then Disney Destiny will be making its way over to Fort Lauderdale. And then, not to be outdone, a cruise port that you don't hear about a lot in Florida said, okay, Port Canaveral, you got a couple ships showing up. I can do that too. We're talking about Jacksonville. They're in northern Florida. It's got a new ship. Now, it's not new to the world, but it's a new ship to Jacksonville. We're talking about the Norwegian Gem. This ship will be home porting out of Jacksonville for a little bit. But Jacksonville traditionally has only had one cruise ship, and that's been a Carnival cruise ship. I think Carnival Elation right now. It's a boon for the city. The celebration, as they've got a second cruise ship, a second offering for cruisers in southern Georgia and in northern Florida, or anybody that wants to go to Jacksonville, really. The wild thing is they can only handle one ship at a time. So these ships will be passing in the night, right? So there'll be one day that the Gem is there loading and unloading people, then they'll bug out, and then the Carnival Elation will come in and load and unload people. So they've got the facilities for one ship, but now they've got 2 cruise lines and 2 cruise ships there, bringing more options for people in Jacksonville. The Gem's scheduled to be there for the remainder of 2025 into 2026, doing sailings to the Bahamas and to the Caribbean. This is part of a 3-year agreement. I've never been on the Gem. It would be fun to go over to Jacksonville, about 3.5 hours from here. Have you sailed out of Jacksonville? Have you sailed on any of those ships there? What do you think? Leave a comment below. Now, can we talk about some of Carnival's smart technology that's being called dumb? It's actually being called asinine. And before I started calling it dumb, I had to look up asinine just to make sure I wasn't too far off by calling it dumb. I guess the official definition of asinine is extremely stupid or foolish, according to the Oxford Dictionary. So yeah, dumb applies. We're talking about smart elevators. Have you ever had this scenario before where you go to an elevator bank and instead of pushing up or down, you have to push what floor you want to go to, and then it tells you what elevator to get on, and then once you get on, there's no buttons that, you can't just get on and push buttons. You just got to make sure that you got on the elevator that the thing outside told you to get on, and it's all driven by technology. It's all driven by AI. But let me read this message. And the wild thing about this message, the people that are upset are people that should be familiar with instrumentation and technology. Here's the message. We have 2 days left of our cruise. Dear husband, what is DH? I don't know what these mean. DH and I are on horizon. There's no bigger test of patience in this world than these asinine elevators. Who decided to put these on a ship? Whoever decided to put these on the ship needs to be fired. The crew people have been outstanding. The ship has good food, and the vibe has been just what we both needed. We are both pilots for blank airlines. We see little of each other, so this was just what we needed. But John Heel, getting from our room on deck 1 up to the MDR on deck 4 or the entertainment decks and the buffet has tested our patience to the core. Worst elevators ever. The statement that there's no bigger test of patience than using the smart elevators. I mean, I'm trying to think. I've been waiting for this Panda Express to open in our town for like 3 months now. And I drive by it every day and we don't have a Panda Express. And I'm like, to me, that's the biggest test of my patience right now. They open tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow. I'm so excited. Like, I didn't mean to get derailed by Beijing beef and the shrimp that cost $1 extra. But what do you think? Have you been on a cruise ship with smart elevators? Are they actually smart? Or do you agree with these people that they're asinine? Asinine. Remember, 10 out of every 8 doctors say that cruising is essential for your well-being. So make sure you are booked for a cruise today. That's everything that's going on in cruising. Thanks again for watching today's episode. Subscribe for more. This is Tony for La Lita Loca. And well, really, now there's nothing left to do but dance. Get up. Get up.